I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is
On this
that
sad
is a
clown.
sad clown.
Proud of my address.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha PAX, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom. Really exciting guest on the show today. You may know this guy. I'm going to say he's the fastest bear crawler in all of F3 Nation. He's recently the site Q and actually one of the founding site Qs at Dragon's Lair, our Saturday site in Gretna, and is also the generous person behind why we get to do a second F event every year at Vala's. And so Crab Cakes, man, just excited to hear your story, have you on today, and wonder if you would just start us at the beginning. What was the first workout like? Who aged you, and where did the name Crab Cakes come from?
Yeah, thanks for having me today. So Lemon Law, who was one of the Redwoods, kind of invited me out pretty early in right after the maze launched, I think. So that was kind of where I first started, sometime in June that first year. It was definitely a very difficult workout. I hadn't really been much of a runner, so Ethanol took us all the way around the lake on a 2-mile run and kind of had us do an Indian run and sprint at the end, and I was pretty gassed there at the end, but it was definitely a fun, interesting experience and kind of got me excited and keep coming for a while every Thursday there up at the maze before starting to try some other sites. A little bit about me. So I kind of walked into the circle to get a name and talking about grew up in Maryland, played football in college, met my wife out at a college out there and moved out here. And I think from Wedding Crashers, the crab cakes and football stuck pretty quick.
That's awesome. And so before you were doing F3, so you had already known Lemon Law, right? Because you guys were friends previously, or tell me about that relationship.
Yeah, we went to church together. We go to church in Gretna here at Journey. And yeah, our wives actually initially met through women's thing at the church. And it's kind of how the two of us introduced and kind of got to know each other. Our church always does donuts and bagels, so nice, healthy things after church. So
yeah, that's awesome. And what? So you're originally from Maryland. What brought you to Nebraska? Is your wife from here? Or?
Yep, my wife's from here. She was raised in Papillion and then moved to Gretna about middle school. So she's been lived in Nebraska her whole life except for the 4 years of college. We went to college at West Virginia Wesleyan, kind of right in the middle of the state of West Virginia. So about 4 hours from me, but 17 from her. So yeah, that's where we met.
She won the decision on where you get to live, right?
Yep. Yeah, she wasn't going to move. Her family has a business out here that we both enjoy now doing, and she wasn't going to come out there for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, what and so you played football in high school, college, or what's your
Both. I played soccer up until high school, and then at tryouts they said I was hurting too many kids, so I switched to football. But yeah, and then started playing that my freshman year in high school and did that through college, walked on at college, and just kind of something fun to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So from a fitness standpoint, then kind of this idea of like working out with a team or a group of guys, I mean, that wasn't new to you, right? It sounds like that was kind of maybe something that you hadn't had since college. Is that right?
Yeah, I hadn't after college. We did a few things. Joined a gym out here, a kickboxing one that was a lot of fun. But you never really had the camaraderie like you did with the football team, and I think F3 brings you. So that was one thing that was definitely missing there with just going to the gym and doing. We did the taco ride, but again, probably not the healthiest thing bike 10 miles to go drink a lot and eat tacos. But
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, it is funny how those things are paired together. But so from your perspective, I mean, so you've been doing F3 now, coming up on 5 years. Yeah, this will be 5 years, right? Sometime in May or.
mhm.
So have you noticed what have you noticed from a fitness standpoint? Any improvements or changes there?
Definitely able to run while still not fast, able to keep up and not be out of breath all the time, and definitely gotten stronger, I think. So the cardio maybe still has a ways to go, but the overall strength and muscle kind of got back more towards what it was in college.
That's awesome. And I think one of my early memories working out with you, I mean, I think it was probably at the maze, and we were bear crawling, and I just remember, just the speed and almost like speed and grace combined with your bear crawling. So where does that come from?
It just seems easy and natural. So I mentioned I played football, but position I played was nose guard and was actually lighter back then than I am now. So being about 100 pounds underweight for the position, you have to be quick, stay low, and just so that kind of has always been natural for me.
Yeah. Have you had anyone challenge you to a race? I'd love to see that, I think.
Every now and then at a workout, I'll see somebody going fast, and I'll try to make sure I win. But otherwise, it's just almost a reputation to keep up. So then I have to, even when tired, push myself there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know. It's something that, I mean, I've heard a few guys that, a new guy will come in and they'll be talking about bear crawls, and I'll hear them say, "Have you ever seen crab cakes bear crawl?" So you are developing a legacy in that space, whether
Yeah.
you know it or not. What about, when you think about, so fitness fellowship with faith, that second F piece? I mean, you came in and you knew lemon law, but how did you develop relationships with the other guys in the group?
I think I kind of started slow in that. And the first couple workouts, it was a couple of guys I would talk to a little bit, but then I really think the big thing was probably a couple months in, started doing coffee, starting to do some other sites. You really get to know more guys the more you lean into the group. So early on, I don't want to say just kind of on the fringe or in the back. I would go once a week to the maze, and there weren't quite as many sites or options back then, but at once I started doing a few others, you really start to get to know a variety of people, and then get to know their story, just kind of talking at coffee. And um, after Dragons launched, more and more people from the Gretna area started to join and kind of get to hang out and get to know them more outside of F3 even.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I would agree. Coffee seems to be one of the best ways to get to know guys. Do you think from your perspective, I mean, I also see you as maybe being a little bit more consistent with where you post, right? You kind of go to the same sites. How has that been, or what's your perspective on that? Do you think that's helped at all?
I think that helps you kind of get to know certain people more, because, yeah, it's really neat to go to different sites and get to know some different people. But the at least for me, the more often I see somebody, the more likely I am to spend more time talking to them, get to know them. And when you're seeing people consistently 2, 3 times a week, it's really like, kind of eye opening to get to know them. And yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wondered that we've had kind of some various, khakis challenge or different things where we really encourage guys to go and explore. But at some point, right, if you're consistent, then you'll just develop deeper relationships with, maybe a fewer number of guys. But, I mean, in all reality, how many really deep relationships can each of us, manage, right? If we're always going around, that's something that, maybe I've struggled with over time. But what do you think is, as you think about some of the other second F events, have you been able to participate in any of those? Like, I'm thinking of like maybe even Q Source or Happy Hour or some of those things that are similar to coffee, but maybe a little different.
Yeah. Um, done a couple of the first Friday lunches, not many. It just seems like for whatever reason I'm always out of town. Every time I always tell myself in the winter, which is kind of my downtime, I'm going to make a couple of those, and it seems like at most I can make one or two a year because a meeting pops up or something like that. Not usually doing a lot of the happy hours. I think just with three young kids and everything. I know everybody, a lot of guys have kids, but it's just hard to make too much in the evening considering my wife does everything in the morning to help take care of the kids. I hate to ask for too much for the evening too there, but there's been a few of the lunches, and then I really liked a couple years ago we had the picnic in June at to launch the brick builder, and just kind of
Mhm.
that fundraiser. That event was really nice, and I enjoy kind of the time where you get to meet people and see their families because we see a component of everybody in the morning, and it's more the workout. More maybe I don't want to say inwardly focused or more just on them, but you really get to see them with their families and a little bit more about who each guy is when you see them in that uh, area.
Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering if maybe that's some of your motivation for extending the offer for guys to come out to your place in the fall. I mean, that's just a huge second half thing for most of us. I don't know if it feels like second half or work to you, but what's the motivation there?
It's always kind of fun. My kids get to come out and they look forward to it to see friends and all. And some people they don't see too often. Some of the kids they see a lot, but just kind of meet new people. And then they like to tell everyone it's their farm. So they're real proud of that. So they love doing that. And I that is a big part of it for me, just kind of seeing the guys have fun as a group and being in a different atmosphere. And I just look at it as that's something that we have that we're able to do and we're blessed with as a my wife's father-in-law started that, or my father-in-law, sorry, started that, and her family started that, and we just have the a unique opportunity there. I know I hear from people about other F3 regions around. They don't quite have the fellowship, or they all have a lot of great things and different things. But I think one of the things that makes Omaha unique is we get to know each other's families, and I think that builds the bond and almost the I've got to show up for if so and so is queuing, or I've got to go because it's even though it's snowing and 10 degrees, there's going to be these three guys there or whatever. So
Yeah. Well, and I know, it's one of those things where, I mean, the number of guys that have been able to bring their families out and it's like, we work out multiple days a week, but our wives have never met, our kids have never met, and so then we have this event where it's like everybody, kind of in the same space. Thankfully, it's a really large space, but I don't know how many guys came out this last year, do you know?
I don't even know. I know the first couple of years we did it as a campfire, so it was a little people's schedules were different, but so we kind of did several days this year. But
Mhm.
even when we had the fire pit, I bet it was a couple hundred this year, and I think that kind of is one of the neat things is you talk to everybody, but then it's like, oh, their kids are the same ages. I mean,
Mhm.
you just kind of bond with other families that you maybe wouldn't have as much because when people are in a similar life cycle, you kind of have things to relate and talk about there.
Yeah, for sure. And tell me about 2.0 workouts. I feel like you've been able to bring your kids out to those too. What do they think of that?
They look forward to it. We every year they've done a couple of the Father's Day ones, and then this past 2 years that we've done a pumpkin workout in October. I always try to do one a year where we bring pumpkins and encourage people, the guys to bring their kids, just have a fun chance to again see a different side of people, but still get a challenging workout in.
Well, yeah, because the average pumpkin weighs how much?
Well,
15.
I tried to bring 20 to 30 pound pumpkins, so it was a regular shaped cinder block was kind of the goal.
Yeah, okay. That's so it's basically like a coupon workout. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I think that ties well into some of the third F stuff, right? I heard you say like you guys have this resource and you want to give it away, and that's
Mhm.
really cool. So I'm curious if you would share just your kind of thoughts on the third F, or maybe your story there from that perspective.
Yeah, I guess just that's the one I don't think of quite as much necessarily component of F3 in my mind, but it's a big part of why I initially joined, though, even because Lemon Law and I met at church, and he said this was a faith-based workout with other guys, and I think that was part of what made me like, oh, let me go try that. So it was just, and I mean, kind of the way that F3 defines. Faith there is a belief in something higher than yourself, so and living third, and trying to help and give people what you can. Everybody's going to be different in that, because what one person's resources might be time, or they might be able to relate to somebody going through a certain difficult spot. So I think that's one of the things that's unique, and what's great about F3 Omaha. We have such a broad group of guys that um, you kind of get a lot of unique experiences from the PAX there. And yeah.
Yeah, I love it, and I think you're right. I mean, that definition of faith really meets guys where they're at, and regardless of kind of where they've been or what their perspective is on church necessarily. It's a broader term than that. Curious, what's been your just growing up, or as you've gotten older and had kids, what's been your relationship with faith? You mentioned going to church. Is that something you've always done, or it's been your
Yeah, definitely grew up going to a church with that's where something my parents instilled in me. But then I think, like a lot of people, you get to college, young adult, and all these other things start pulling at your attention and drifted away a little bit there. But then, kind of with the kids, and once I moved out here, my wife and I definitely prioritized finding a church once we decided this is where we were going to be. And so we joined our church back in 2010, and been going there. What is that? 13 years now since then. So just and that's a good place. Several of the packs are from our church, and that's kind of how I got to know a lot of them.
is Vlasic the one of the pastors there? Is that the same place?
No, Vlasic's at the Baptist church, but also here in Gretna. But Painkiller and Dr. Thunder are both from Journey, and Wet Bandit, who came, and Grease Monkey a few years back. I still see both of them a lot at church. So
Oh yeah, wow, Grease Monkey, we got to get him back out, man.
I've mentioned it a few times.
Yeah, it's tough. What do you think? So that's an interesting question because for me, like you don't, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't necessarily post 6 days a week every week, and then you have this chunk of time where hard for you to post at all. I mean, how do you stay engaged over time with that schedule?
I try to go 3 to 4 times a week. Actually, ironically, it was 2 weeks ago was the first time I ever hit 6 days in a row. Because it always seems like I'll aim for it sometime in the winter and then oversleep a certain day. So it was actually kind of a milestone I hit. I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was nice. But I think kind of being consistent with where I go is part of that. I try to hit the three or two or three of the ones in Gretna, and then I've gone to the maze. I think Hard Hat likes to joke. I've had the highest attendance and lowest queue percentage out there. So
Yeah, well, and maybe you're onto something, as we think about like retention, how do we retain guys? Maybe that is, if a guy can only go, a couple times a week, maybe the recommendation is to go to the same site, right? So then they build those relationships that then kind of last, a little bit longer. But I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think that's part of it, but I also think kind of some of the early guys, once I started doing coffee and different things, they ask questions, engage with you. Just remember number of times after the maze, we'd go up to what was it, Family Fair or the grocery store? I'm not even sure what it was called.
Yeah, yep, I think it's
Big
family.
frills, but just some conversations with wait time over the years, and it was really neat to kind of him, you, a couple different guys. It was just you talk a lot about family and different things, but also kind of some business things, and it's just a way to have adult conversation that's productive and interesting. So it was just kind of neat to hear all that.
Yeah, for sure. What and then the others kind of the other side of Third F, maybe more on like the community service side. What have you seen or experienced in that space over the years?
That's one I know I always look at myself and I think I could do more. And because it's just one where with the business I run, it's very time consuming. So it's hard to make time. But just when I've seen the packs and the different things we've done over the years with helping the food pantry, just what Lincoln Logs has been talking about with the CSOP that's about to come up here, and the amount of food we to donate to the pantry and the blood drives. It's just the PAX is very giving and want to help each other and very generous there. So and I always try to do what I can there too.
Yeah, and there's never a shortage of options in that space. It seems like
No,
there's always something. And the for the CTOP, what's really cool, I just kind of learned this, but the food pantry we're supporting actually had a pretty significant need for canned goods or perishable goods, non-perishable goods. And when we approached them, it was almost like, it was not a coincidence, right, that we were doing a big event and they had a significant need. So really cool just to
yep.
match up in that space.
I do really believe that there's always a reason for things, that God puts things in your life at a certain time. Just how I ended up at the college I was at, how I met my wife, how this, I, people always think it's coincidence, but I don't know. I just choose to believe differently, that it's definitely intended.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's that higher power, right? SkyQ is
Mhm.
doing its thing up there. So I want to get your thoughts on Dragon's Lair, and I don't know if guys know the full story, but I don't know. Share with us kind of from your perspective about how the launch of the first site in Gretna kind of came to fruition, and kind of your leadership there.
Yeah, it's definitely took a little bit of time. I think it might have been you talked to me almost a year ahead of time about launching something in Gretna, and I've dragged my feet for quite a while. Part of that being I still don't know how to use Twitter or any of that kind of stuff, and this backblast and post and all that kind of stuff. I'm terrible at that stuff, but really worked out well, especially with how my time, and I can't usually do a lot in September, October. That Tonight Show and I kind of tag team that, so we joked we had an IT department there, but I don't think a lot of the sites need an IT department. Maybe the other guys can figure it out. But it was something we've talked about for years. And part of that was, I mean, just at the coffees and different things. Lemon Law and I were two from Gretna, but there wasn't a lot of guys early on from here. And the first couple of years, it seemed like every single workout was 15, 20 minutes away. I think on Saturdays, I could either go to Pitt or Oracle, but one was 20 minutes, one was 21 minutes. And just to kind of help grow this in the Gretna and the Southwest Omaha area here, it was pretty important to launch something in Gretna. And I think then we've really gotten a core group of incredible guys down here. Several of them site queues now with Speed Square and Unicycle and Miyagi and others. But we've just really built up a really group core, or really great core down here. And I think convenience of it being in the backyard, it's hard. It's easy to tell somebody no when it's like, oh, I got to drive all the way across town.
Mhm.
And I think that's why I didn't do as many sites early on. It's like, I don't know. I don't really feel like driving all the way there, all the way there. But I think it was Miyagi joked. It's like, yeah, when we told him it was, I think Lincoln Logs Tim and was saying, it's like, yeah, it's like 100 yards from your house. There's no way to deny that you can't get there then.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's kind of the point, right? It's interesting too, because I mean, I feel like one of the very first, conversations about potential expansion, right? Gretna was on that list, and it just kind of took a while to gain some steam or momentum. And now, I mean, which is cool because I mean, the housing development out that way too are continuing to grow. So we're only going to have more of a need out that way. But curious your thought, just what was that like to kind of be that first site in that new area? How did that feel, or what was your experience with that?
Well, it's definitely exciting. Kind of didn't know exactly what to expect going into it, but I enjoyed doing that. But also enjoyed passing it off too. One of the things I love about F3 is with my work, I lead a lot all day with our team, and I just love the idea of going and having somebody else lead for a bit. So while I really enjoyed being kind of part of that launch, and I can't mention enough how much Tonight Show was vital to that too. Just the two of us working together, and I think it worked really well there. But I really enjoyed that. But I also enjoyed then the transition going forward, and I think Miyagi's done a great job, and I think Dragon's Lair will just keep growing and getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the other cool thing I noticed recently was, since moving into Gretna, we've provided a location for some, maybe more experienced packs, but they moved, right? So Coach K and
Mm-hmm.
Stretch are the two guys I'm thinking of, but they moved to Gretna, and we didn't have sites, and now and they weren't able to post as much, so now we have sites that are, I think Coach K is able to walk to the dune.
Yeah,
um,
we see him just about every Wednesday out there, and I think that's one of the neat things, as you mentioned, that it's like you kind of build a relationship with somebody and they start to drift, but then what's great about F3 is once I think you come out, if you take a break, you come back out a time or two, it just brings you right back in, and
mhm.
um, people are just very welcoming.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think? You mentioned leading at work, and I couldn't agree more. Sometimes it's nice to just go and be a part of and not have to lead. But when you think about leadership, I mean, how did the Site Q role, or did the Site Q role help expand or grow any leadership skills for you, or what was your experience there?
I think one of the things that maybe reinforced was the commitment to being on time, reliable. Although lately I've been late to the dune just about every other time, if not more. Uh, but that's something that was very critical when you think of sports and in college with football. It's like practice started here. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. And I'd gotten really relaxed in that. And I think as a good leader, being very diligent with your time was one thing that I was starting to the meeting will start when I get there, type thing. And that sounds pretty bad, I think. But
Um,
uh, just kind of like, it's like, no, this group, that's one thing leadership wise. And then um, while I don't do a lot with the social media, just trying to get to know the different people coming out and making that cafeteria priority and a chance to get to know new guys and hear their story and be welcoming to them the way I was welcomed at the beginning. So I think that's one of the other things I really got out of being the site Q, because I look at that as kind of a job of the site Q is at cafeteria really to help those F and Gs become long-term packs.
yeah, no, that's great. And I think you're right. I mean, just, it's easy to kind of fall into a pattern. And so having a reminder of, like you said, reliability, or just simple being on time. I love that. That's a great call out. And then tell me about the kind of, as you were looking at successor and Miyagi, and kind of what you saw there in his leadership that you think makes him a good fit.
He's just very friendly, welcoming, and I think that was one thing. I think entertaining. Just everyone really enjoys spending time with him, and I think that's something as you're trying to continue to have the area grow, having the site cues be relatable, and people like spending time with them makes when you get the F and G and they have a good time, they're more likely to keep going. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he's done a great job. I think he also, I think, is pretty connected to the community, similar to you. So he, things that are like different needs in the community. I feel like there's, somebody and maybe had a house fire and lost
Yep, right at
everything. And,
I think it was Thanksgiving there, and really took that on, and the leadership there that he showed of the living third. And I mean, it's a holiday weekend. Everyone wants to spend time with their family, but really putting that, I think it was two families together that lived together or something, but putting those people first to help them when they were in such a desperate time.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and the other thing that is comical to me, right? So I think I have this correct, but Chiclet is Lincoln Log's son-in-law, right?
Yes.
And Miyagi is also Lincoln Log's son-in-law,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So we've got a trio there. So I think it's always funny when they post together. You wonder if there's any banter there between the
Yep.
two son-in-laws and the father-in-law. But you got a good crew there. What another question I had for you is you're just thinking about Gretna and kind of just the growth within F3. I mean, where do you see the need next? What do you think the next move out that way?
I definitely think we could have another site or two out here. A little bit of a different site. So right now we got a Murph tradition, and then two traditional beatdowns. While it's not necessarily my thing, but you got unicycle and Coach K and several guys that like running. So something like that, or I'm more the coupon or weight based one. I think that would be kind of fun to have a different one out here. Um, and then, I mean, really beyond that, it's as Gretna keeps growing, even because within Gretna, it's quite a distance sometimes between the different areas. Right now, we got two there at Aspen and Dragon's Lair, kind of all three right in the center. And actually, thinking back to Dragon's Lair, kind of coming up with the spot, that was one of the key things was to have something that was very noticeable. Right in the middle of town that somebody drove by who hadn't heard of F3. They see the flag sitting out and a bunch of guys working out in the park. It kind of makes them look into it. So, yeah, that was another part with Dragon's Lair I just kind of thought of there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and maybe I mean you could probably have maybe it's a farm cleanup AO and guys come to your farm and help you clean up once a week, right?
Yeah. We're going to have wood chopping today. We need to chop all these mulberries down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good workout, right? And
Yeah,
it's
you moved to an acreage. I mean, you've experienced the joys of uh, land ownership there.
oh, man. Well, yeah, and some of it, it could be a first F, and then if it's other guys doing it, then it's third F for them, right? They're giving
Yep.
back. But I don't know. It feels like we'd have to pay them for that. No, yeah,
Yeah. At what point does it become a job?
yeah, it is cool just to think of, the opportunity, just to keep growing. And we've certainly got a lot of great leaders in place to help us with that. So I'm excited for what's to come. A couple other questions for you here, just thinking about, maybe it's new guys or maybe it's site cues, but, with your years of experience in F3, what sort of advice do you have for guys, maybe if they're coming out for the first time or if they're leading for the first time, what advice would you provide?
I think for coming out the first time, I mean, just kind of keep coming and lean into it because it took me a little while, but I mean, I really enjoy this group. I think it's a big part of what I look forward to every week. And I definitely do. Well, I love what I do for my full time job. In the fall, I really miss the group. It's great. I see a lot of the guys who come out and say hi and visit throughout the fall, but when it's not there, you notice it. So, so kind of take the time to get to know each other or get to know somebody new would be something for the new guys. And then for the site cues, I guess that's kind of similar because I think that's a big part of being a site cue is when you have a new guy welcoming them and getting them excited about becoming a long-term committed PAX member.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so simple, right? It just takes somebody to ask a little bit deeper question, right? Get to know somebody for the first time. I love that. It's really good advice. What, maybe not as serious of a question here, but just thinking about all the different workouts you've participated in, any favorite memorable workouts or any favorite exercises that you would call out?
I guess the one that sticks out is actually one I queued. I've joked a few times. I was at Wild Kingdom, and Tonight Show told me I should burn the workout, but that big hill on the dam there, backpedaling up that a whole pretty much the whole time, and doing um, crazy exercises at the top, and then running down and backpedaling right back up. Yeah, my legs were that was seemed great in my head, and during the workout it was definitely harder than I anticipated.
But you can't stop midway, right? I mean, you don't
No,
want
you got to keep going.
to.
Um, or at least at some points it's hard to audible, but be willing. I guess that's one thing I kind of learned over the years. If you're queuing something and it's not quite right, don't just that one I stuck through to the end. But on some of the other things since then, if it doesn't seem quite right, be ready to audible quick. If and don't be afraid to change.
Yeah,
Just commit to what you're doing.
absolutely. What about favorite exercise? Is bear crawl a favorite, or is it just something you're good at?
Um, I enjoy bear crawl. But I do like the Bernie Sanders. Prior to playing D line, I was actually a corner, so I went straight from corner to D line. So I don't know how I skipped all the positions in the middle, um, but wasn't quite fast enough for corner, and then went to D line. So both of those are kind of natural for me. And then I like I like doing the different coupon workouts and the curls, overhead press, and it really relates back to the years of working out in the gym for sports. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. Not very many people say burpees is their favorite, but we have heard Bernie Sanders a lot. I think it's a good exercise. It's you do get a nice burn, but
yeah.
it's also not annoying. And burpees is what I hear. I don't feel that way, but um,
When
what
I've put in a lot of workouts of late, I do what is it, bat wings while doing wall sits. That's kind of a little bit unique, but it really burns your legs at the end. I like doing leg workouts.
Yeah, no, that's good. I haven't. It's been a while. I felt like maybe he used to always do that bat wing. It was a routine he had.
I think yeah, he might have been the first one, and then kind of adding the wall sits in to burn the legs while you're working out the shoulders. That way you get both groups there.
Right. Kind of last question for you here, and this one is maybe a little bit, deeper, but just thinking about, you've got the kind of live right, lead right, or sorry, get right, live right, lead right, and leave right. So kind of that legacy piece. I mean, when you think about your legacy that you're leaving, what comes to mind there?
I think the easiest answer is your kids. So as my sons get older and older, right now they're 5 and 2, so they're not quite at the join the PAX, but really showing them the importance of committing to your health and making good decisions there is a big part of it. And kind of the idea of them eventually taking over the job and the family business from me and my wife and her sisters is something that's always kind of been a big part of for me. And then from an F3 perspective, just um, while Gretna is launched and is strong now, just that it continues to be strong. It's really important, I think, to have these AOs in the different neighborhoods and different areas, because I think it's a big part of I mean, I believe in our mission that it's to plant, grow, and serve for the reinvigoration of male community leadership, and that the leadership is taught through the commitments and the principles that we have.
I love that. So part of that maybe is bringing your boys out to F3 as they get older.
Yep, that's definitely I want to be in this, and got a long ways, but still want to be in this all the way through being in respect. So I've got good 15 years there still, but
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
I can get there. But and maybe by that point, even the 2-year-olds coming out on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, and that's hopefully that, for all of us, right? Part of why we're working out is so we can still work out when we're, double and triple respect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely an inspiration seeing some of the double respect guys out there and pushing and kind of getting to know Lincoln Logs better. Because my wife was friends with his daughter, Miyagi's wife, growing up and knew that family a little bit, but really got to know him more through this, and just the commitment to health as I get older is important.
Yeah, my only question for some of those guys is at what point do we just have a coffee only AO, right? And then we just get together and read the newspaper and drink coffee. But maybe that's in your 80s or 90s. I don't know. We're not there
Well, I always say if there was an easier way to get coffee, I wish I could figure it out. But I figured you
yet.
get to do the workout to get the coffee. So
Yeah, we need slow roast to post more to get that.
yep.
Oh man, well this has been great. Anything else you would share with guys that are listening? Any other thoughts or things we maybe didn't cover?
No, I appreciate you having me on. It was really great, kind of getting to reflect back and think on this and the journey that the F3 has been. Because sometimes you forget about the early stuff until somebody asks you questions about how you started. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been great just to get to know you over the years, and if I haven't said it or you don't hear it enough from guys, I mean your leadership, at the Dragon's Lair, but also with the second event in the fall, I know has helped develop a lot of relationships. I'm definitely appreciative for that. I know a lot of guys are, so appreciate you, man. We'll do a quick name-orama here. I'll start us off. Brandon Flehardy, 37, the Plague.
Uriah, 35, crab cakes.
Crab cakes. And do we do anything? Do we do like a noise or a motion after your name?
No, I know, I know a
Nothing.
lot of the guys are getting into different either gestures or whatever there, but
Yeah.
I guess I'm simple. I
That's-
started. I don't know, for whatever reason, doing the name-orama, not saying my last name, and it always drove Slow Roast. You mentioned him crazy, so
Yeah. And that's just
after that, it just became tradition. Then,
Yeah. Yeah. You just got to do it. Well, I love it. Hey, thanks for your time today. Have a good rest of your day.
all right, thank you. Bye.